I believe people will be more likely to click on our search ad if they've heard of our brand before.
Okay, welcome back to the Marketing Playbook presented by Uptick and Tie. Here you'll take away 3 game-winning marketing plays every episode to take back to your team. I'm your host, Mark Friedman, and my career has been focused on direct-to-consumer marketing, direct mail, physical retail, and digital commerce. This is episode number 125, and my guest is Ben Kruger. Ben is the Chief Marketing Officer of Event Ticket Center, an online seller of event tickets on the secondary market. He has a career on both sides of the table, a number of roles on the provider side, and one at a subscription business called Dia. Ben speaks a lot about how it was helpful to be the client and also work on behalf of a client to optimize his skills. And listen for Ben's story that's never been told before. Enjoy the show. Before we get started, a quick thank you as always to Max Brandstetter of the Wow Business Growth Podcast for producing this episode. You can reach him at max@maxpodcasting.com to help bring your podcast to life. Let's open the playbook. Ready, break. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Marketing Playbook podcast. Today, I'm joined by Ben Kruger. Ben is a seasoned marketer with deep expertise in performance advertising, retention marketing, and analytics. He has a long track record of scaling campaigns across Google, Meta, and emerging platforms from a mix of time spent at startups, SaaS offerings, brands, and Google. Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Mark. Awesome to be here.
Yeah, thanks for making the time. Really nice to be able to see you and chat a bit with you about your career and kind of what you've been, doing now. Ben, we start this show 125 episodes in exactly the same way. I am a creature of habit. We like to get the guest's first story. Anything in your upbringing, the way you grew up that might have suggested that your career would take the shape that it has?
It's an excellent question. I'm debating telling the story or not. I've never publicly told it. But for you, Mark, I'll let it rip. I, in high school, came across a colleague who was making and selling fake IDs and saw quite an opportunity there. This was in Miami. So, everyone was trying to go out in high school ages and whatever. And now that I look back at it, I basically became an affiliate of his. So he manufactured, I negotiated a very good wholesale cost from him, and I really went to town. We worked together for like 7 years. I was like frontline sales, basically. Like, I'm trying to make this more of a professional operation than it was, but it was one of the best business models I've come across, and there's a lot of demand for it. People are always 15 or 16 years old trying to go out, and they're willing to pay for an ID. And I say that because it was obviously very entrepreneurial. And I learned a lot about sales and negotiating and making deals and cash flow and etc. I think that's where I get my entrepreneurial bug from. And I think that is a good foundation for the type of business person I've become today.
The real question, Ben, is, this show could be made available to your kids.
That's fine.
Are you going to let them listen to my show?
I've already made them IDs, so they know already.
Okay. Did you have any mentors, family members, other role models, that might have helped shape your career?
I think, I don't know, sort of reverse role models. Like, I was the first in my family to go to college. I wasn't brought up having to do my homework and be set on a good routine and whatnot. So I really struggled through school on the academic side, just without, the feedback loops or routines of having to do homework and study, etc. And I think I wanted to come out better on the other side. So I think I was trying, I didn't realize it probably until college, where I almost got kicked out for having terrible grades. And my now wife really got me into shape freshman year in college, where we met. So a weird answer to the question, but sort of what not to do and, how to change things and pivot a bit my behaviors.
Okay. Well, a very enlightening
Yeah.
conversation so far, Ben. So the early days, coming out of college, you worked at a company called RevTrax. I'd love to hear a little bit about what that was, and your role there. But before you hit that, this was a vendor side role. Was that something you thought about then, being on the vendor side, as opposed to perhaps wanting to work in a brand?
I honestly had no clue. It was my, first job, sort of take what you can get. I had to fight for the job. I remember I interviewed very well, but the co-founder, great guy, Seth Sarelson, rightfully questioned my academics. And through the like mutual colleague that I got connected to them with, he went to bat for me. And I had interned with him prior. So he saw my work ethic and that I was smarter than I was on paper. So he pushed for me to get that job, and thankfully he did. But to answer your question, no, I didn't know what really I was getting into. It was a tech startup, so I knew that I wanted to go that direction. I didn't really like know what I wanted. A very cool product that basically sought to track online engagements to offline sales, and they did that by dynamically generating a coupon barcode. So a user would, search for Huggies diaper coupons or a Target coupon online, print it out, and in that barcode that was printed through the RevTrax technology, all of the URL parameters would be embedded in that barcode: email address, keyword, ad ID, whatever. And then the user would take that coupon to store, and you'd be able to connect the ad engagement, whatever they did, who they are, etc., to that in-store purchase. For like a CPG brand was massive, and still is a hard problem to solve. So I worked there for a number of years, got to work with like major CPG brands, SC Johnson, Clorox, Kimberly Clark, etc., and also get to engage a lot on the product and tech side as well, which was awesome.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about this, meshing of, digital and stores. I have a client, we were talking just today about the fact or the belief that, you spend $1 on Google, Meta, wherever you spend it, and, maybe it drives, let's say, $3, to your digital business, but, it probably drives another dollar or two or three, into a store. And so many businesses are only looking at that $3 return on their spend as opposed to the six. And in fact, obviously, if we felt like if three was tolerable and four was good or five was good, well, maybe we should be spending more because we know there's benefit for what's going in store. My guess is, you probably hit some of that when you were at Google.
Oh, definitely, yeah. We tried to like value, basically like inflate the conversion value using, and Google was cool because you could get closer to tracking it, right? Like map, you're tracking people's locations. So if they click an ad and they go within 100 feet of the store, that is like a biddable conversion, and you can value it. The toughest thing to crack was, and maybe still is Amazon. There's no feedback loop there, but I think it's even probably more than the in-store impact that you're adding to online. So yeah, we always like said your ROAS is really higher than it is. I just can't really prove it, but we know that it is.
Interesting. All right, we'll come back to that when we talk a little bit about Google. You've been on the brand side a number of times. I always love asking questions like this to folks like you. How do you deal with tough clients?
It matters where you are. Like when I was at a startup, I couldn't tell a difficult client to like bug off, right? Like you had to service them and make sure you get them to retain and keep the contract, etc. But if you're at somewhere like Google and they kind of need you, I don't want to use the monopoly word, but a lot of people rely on platforms like that. You have a lot more leverage in that sense. But I don't know, Mark, you were definitely one of the tougher clients that I ever worked with, and that was during my time at Bluecore doing email. And look at us now. Like I really enjoyed it. Like I don't know, there's levels to it. Like if the client has a strong perspective and like is making valid points, then I enjoy that. It's a challenge, and I want to work together to partner up and solve it. But some people are just rude to be rude, and you kind of just got to pick your battles. I'd say, but it matters like if you can afford to or not, and what the issue really is.
Yeah, and I've heard that before that I was a tough, but I think people have said to me, people like you, tough but fair, and I think that's a really important thing that I always try to be. And people that I work with, it's okay to challenge, be respectful while you're challenging. You may never choose to agree, but that's okay. Hopefully, both sides get to be made better because there's good challenge. You made a comment about Blue Core. That's, I think, where we first met. So you go from RevTrax to Blue Core, another provider side. What was the impetus to make that change?
I think it was time. Like RevTrax was my first job. I was there for a number of years, maybe 4.5 years. I don't know. I've noticed a lot of times in my career now, you sort of hit a ceiling of what you can do in a given career path until you either have to completely make up a new job at that company or move to another company. I think I hit that at RevTrax and was looking for something new to do. Blue Core at the time was it was probably 30 to 40 people, very cool Lower East Side office, awesome tech, awesome founders, awesome team, and wanted to just change it up. I can't really think of any particular reasons, but it sounded very appealing at the time, and glad that I did it. And I also wanted to round out my like maybe it wasn't intentional, but looking back now, like I went from attribution to email to paid search, so like kind of rounding out a deep like marketing foundation.
Yeah, I love the fact that you were at RevTrax for 4 years. I've been using this term more frequently lately as I do some interviewing for some clients, and I see so much jumping around. And some of it is, to be fair, it's not on the person in many cases. They go to a startup loses funding, or there's layoffs and restructuring or whatever. But there's so many people who don't have any what I'll call foundational experiences. And there's no right or wrong as to what period of time is foundational. To me, 3, 4, 5 years is kind of, a lot of time to give your all to an organization and to learn a lot. So I loved that you had that. I've known Blue Core, stayed close to Blue Core. As you were working through that business, you had a couple of different roles there. So how did you move from one to the other?
Well, yeah, this is where I was able to sort of create my own role there. I was a customer success manager for I don't know 2.5 years there, and I really fell in love with the product and I was pushing the product really far to do new things, and would get into these situations with our clients where like there was an opportunity to do something awesome with the product. We couldn't quite get there, or we needed additional data support or analytics to figure something out. And I think because of that, I found myself always getting pulled in by the sales team to go either pitch a new client, help them pitch a new client, or with an existing client, like help really advance their usage of the product. And I saw these sales guys getting commission off of a lot of the work that I was doing. And I think that's a big problem with customer success is like there's really no incentive to go above and beyond. And because the sales guy does the contract renewal and upsells, but the customer, like the CSM, really does all the work. I think it's a big problem with like SaaS in general. Myself and a data engineer named Paul, who now also works for me. I brought him over to Event Ticket Center. He's awesome. We pitched to create like a services team basically under Jared Blank, and Jared, he was the CMO at the time. And we went to market with like an advanced data and analytics service strategy team just to basically do cool shit with our enterprise clients. So we got to work on and some awesome projects, and again try to scale it and drive incremental revenue and push the product further as well.
That's nice. And I've had good experiences with the folks at Blue Core over the years. You've had a nice career. Was there any point in your career where you felt like you had a setback or a failure, that you kind of just scratched your head and said, all right, what do I do next?
The issue I always faced was like outgrowing the role and what to do then. I think most people immediately think to like hop to another job, another company, maybe doing the same thing. But I don't know. I always found myself in like limbo. Should I stay and try to make this new thing work? And I think that happened at every job. To be honest, it happened at Google. It was, when I was leaving, I was at a fork in the road. I was pushing really hard for a new role to be created there, which is like an impossible task to do, even if everyone agrees with it. Just a company that size to create a new role is very difficult. So those always happen to me. at each job that I had. And just looking back, I think it's a good thing, but like it's just hard to navigate, and it's hard to make that decision when you're in that seat of what you're going to do.
If you're in e-commerce and focused on profitability, you need to know about Uptick. Uptick has been quietly helping brands unlock serious revenue where most people aren't even looking. Uptick is transforming the way e-commerce brands monetize their users through post-purchase ads. Uptick's clients are adding an extra 30 to 60 cents in pure profit per order. I've personally witnessed many brands using Uptick, most of which are adding between 500,000 and 1 million annually in profit without any change to the customer purchase experience. In a world where CACs are exploding, tariffs are in place, and margins are getting squeezed, Uptick's focus on profitability is exactly what many brands need right now. If you're looking to unlock hidden revenue streams with minimal effort, check out uptick.com. So after Bluecore, your first opportunity to work on the brand side, you go to a subscription business called Dia.
Dia and Co. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about that.
Dia & Co was basically Stitch Fix for plus size women. I was very deep in email coming out of Bluecore. They were hiring for like a life cycle manager. So basically someone just trying to increase their retention after that initial box that gets styled for them, the first shipment of clothes that come to them. Again, another startup, well-funded, very like niche target, and just seemed very exciting to be able to implement a lot of things that I had been working on the Bluecore side. I think looking back now, I remember like when you're on the SaaS side, you're always recommending things to do, right, for brands to do. And I'd say 70% of the time they don't do it. And I was trying to figure out like, can I do, like, am I actually right? Like, if I do the things that I've always talked about, like, will it make an impact? Was I on the right path? And I think there was no better way to do it than like just going brand side and trying to do it and uncovering why people were hesitant to do things or things never got done. And I definitely learned it. I mean, there's like so much more that goes on. Like you're like, as a SaaS product, you're like a sliver of what a marketing manager is thinking about. So I got a lot more breadth of everything that goes into an e-commerce business, and that's a very difficult business too. Like you basically a marketplace of stylists and customers and the inventory logistics, and so it was very cool and fascinating to learn all that.
It's so interesting because I've been on the brand side almost my entire career other than consulting. And, I always, whenever we were being pitched by people like you that were working for SaaS or any kind of a provider, it was always interesting to me that so many of them had never sat in a chair like I was sitting in. And I don't know how they could be effective salespeople if they didn't know the challenges that the brand person was facing, roadmap, getting the tech work to implement, getting the budget, how to prove ROI, the whole concept of proving ROI. There's a pet peeve of mine that, the SaaS folks don't really even understand how to help somebody make the business case. So I agree, and one of the things we do at the end of this show, Ben, is we wrap up a summary of the 3 key takeaways that people can take back. And this is a perfect one. Is it's great to be on the brand side or the vendor side, but if you can get both sides and get some perspective, it's really helpful, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Another foundational role, Google.
Yes.
Everybody knows Google. What was the draw there?
I had been applying there throughout my entire career. It's another point to this. I think by getting the brand experience, they finally considered me. I like, that's the only thing that changed. I was only a DIA for like 8 months, 9 months, I think. And that definitely got me in the door and helped me in my interview talk, because it was a mid-market e-commerce sales role, and DIA was actually on the team that I was interviewing for. So I knew people, and like, everything I talked about were problems that they were facing as a sales team and things they were trying to solve. So that little sliver of experience really, really helped. That was an awesome job. That was in 2019. So it was like 8 months before COVID. You get like 4 months to onboard at Google. So I had no responsibility through, let's call it like Jan 2020. Yeah. And then COVID hit, and was, for e-commerce, awesome time to be at Google. I mean, people were, a little unstable at first, but then everything just blew up. And it was a rocket ship for the next couple of years until it wasn't.
I've seen you do quite a lot of posting on LinkedIn, and one of the things that you wrote that was intriguing, you talked about yourself as a statistics focused marketer who struggles with saying statistically significant.
Yeah.
Run that through for us.
I either think it was truly like it being a tongue twister and I couldn't say it, or it could be me thinking of like sometimes you gotta just trust your gut, and if you're testing something like you 80% maybe or whatever is good enough, like you gotta be able to move quickly and make calls and make decisions and not just linger on things. I don't know which one. It was probably a while ago, that post. It could be the tongue twister piece, but now I would answer it that way.
Right. One of the things I was going to ask, you look at Google, you worked on helping brands scale profitably. How would you describe yourself and, from being the analytical guy versus, the creative? Because there is a balance, right? And, you can't let the numbers drive all the time. You just mentioned, you got to have some gut. How do you fall into that spectrum?
I think I first go to analytics to try to see a trend or a story that's going on with the data and then tell us a story, like answer the questions with the data. But I think I'm good at making assumptions of things, right? So if like the data is incomplete or inconclusive, we can at least see the way that it's going and pull some correlations and some cause and effect out of things. My boss now talks about all the time of being able to see cause and effect of within the data. And we make changes a lot, and we don't let things run through to the end of what I think like a statistician would. But you turn something off, and 3 days later, you see what it did to XYZ, and you make a call. So that's how we operate. We move really quickly, and I think I vibe really well with them because of that. But definitely numbers first, but then do let creativity come into it. So a little of both.
So you're CMO now of a business that I hadn't heard of until you and I chatted, Event Ticket Center. What's that business?
We are a secondary ticket reseller. So like a StubHub, a Vivid Seats, SeatGeek. We're all basically, for better, like more or less selling the same inventory. It's a fascinating industry, the ticket resale market, but we're in a spot where we are able to really just for the most part focus on marketing, performance marketing, and we're selling a product that is in very high demand. And there's lots of different flavors of the same product. You got a country show, or you got Monster Jam, or a comedy show, whatever. There's lots of different angles, but at the end of the day, it's the same product. So we can do a ton of different scale with like a really sharp funnel, I'd say, like a focused funnel. Here I've learned that the really little things matter. Like it's a very competitive industry. And to your point, there are huge brands in there that we hold our own against, and it's because we're very focused on the super granular things that I think most marketers probably wouldn't pay attention to, but because we do, we're able to compete because everyone's got the same tools. So we just have to be better at every single thing in order to even be close to competing with those brand names.
When we first chatted, about the role that you're in, I find it just interesting because I'm a consumer of secondary tickets. It's been a while, but your one comment to me was, Mark, we don't have any inventory. And as a guy who spent their career mostly in fashion and always having inventory, that must be liberating.
Oh, it's amazing. I don't know why anyone would have it. Like, I don't know. I used to drop ship a little bit. Like, I would not want to deal with getting tied up with inventory ever.
When you think about, I was taking some notes while you were talking. I guess rebuy, getting multi buyers, getting people to, you got to get them in the door, you got to acquire them. So there's a whole cost of acquisition, play here. But then trying to get somebody to come back after they hopefully had a good experience with you.
That's sort of like the white whale, I think, for us. And I don't think there's much loyalty in the space. A couple people have tried loyalty programs. I don't think that they do very well. Because to me, the brand in this case is like the artist or the show that you're going to see. So that's who you're searching for. That's who you're seeking. And like the platform is just the mechanism to get the tickets to that. Of course, there is like email and re-engagement and things, but I don't know. I think the average person probably goes to two, maybe three shows a year. Timing and predicting what they're going to do next is very difficult. So it's a big nut to crack for sure. But we are heavily focused on acquisition and probably reacquiring people that we've already acquired. I think that's just the name of the game for the category.
And I would imagine that if people are going to 2 or 3 shows a year, let's say on average, they don't necessarily have a need for a resale ticket. Maybe they're getting the primary or whatever, the first sale of the ticket, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you think about the acquisition side, what are you leveraging about your brand for acquisition? Is it about the brand name? Is it about price? Is it about the scope of shows that you have available? Is it the security? I mean, maybe it's all of the above.
I think it's probably primarily trust. I think a lot of questions people have when buying tickets are like, if the show gets canceled or if I don't get my tickets, will I be protected? So we and basically everyone has guarantees on that, and the industry's done a very good job of penalizing brokers who aren't fulfilling tickets. There is a very, very, very high certainty that you're going to get your tickets, and we do everything we can to make sure that people do. It's rarely an issue, but those are the common questions. So I think it's trust and and reputation management is really big. We tried a lot of brand activate, like coming from Google. I was like, oh my God, we're going to do YouTube and this and that and build a big brand. And one, it's very difficult to measure. Very. So from like the CFO and finance perspective, like that's a very tough game to play. So I've like now come to the realization that I think, to me, the point of any brand activation things that we do is I believe people will be more likely to click on our search ad if they've heard of our brand before. That's all that I go for now. I don't try to measure it. It's just a gut thing. But by reaching more people, maybe we'll get more clicks on our ad. And since they've heard of us, they'll be more likely to trust us. That's really, and maybe that's what brand advertising is. And measurement people tried to mess it all up, but that's where I've netted out. So we we have an awesome social team. We do a lot of influencers. We've activated a lot of events. We've sponsored a lot of college teams. We were a big sponsor of the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight last year. So trying to get some recognition and trust that way, and just be associated with, high reputable brands and teams and whatnot. I think it could help.
Brands like Caraway and Cozy Earth are unlocking 6-figure revenue growth by emailing website visitors they couldn't reach before. With Tye, formerly Revenue Roll, top brands are instantly expanding their email lists with their most engaged website traffic without requiring form submissions or purchases. They're catching more abandoned cart shoppers, personalizing emails, and sourcing new first-time buyers with Tye's real-time identity resolution and enrichment platform. Built for modern marketers, Tye uses cookie-resilient identification and a proprietary data network spanning over 1,000 sources, with no data sharing involved. It's privacy-compliant, easy to use, and integrates seamlessly with any email or ad platform. Make experiences across the internet more personal, rewarding, and worthwhile with Tye. Book a demo at meettie.com, meettie.com. When somebody is thinking that they want to buy tickets for the Mets, right? Are they generally going to Google and starting their search there, or are they going to their preferred provider?
I think most probably go to Google, and then a subset will go to their preferred provider. Sports are really tough, like MLB and whatnot. Like StubHub's has a great integration with them. They're a big sponsor of them, and at the league level, there are some brands that are just more, I guess, tied and integrated with leagues. But from what we've seen, Google search is really utilized space for event tickets for sure.
You talked about your experience being deep in email. Is email retention, maybe even acquisition, a big play for what you guys do?
Yeah. So that's something I've started up. We had a decent program before I started, but we're really ramping it up. Like I mentioned, we brought Paul over from who was at Bluecore with me, and we're leveraging a lot of the similar like recommendation modeling and predictive analytics around it. Send people like what's coming up this weekend in their town that they may like based on what they bought before, things like that. And we're noticing a ton of engagement and good conversion off of it as well. So that is definitely heading in the right direction, which is great.
I'm sure with your background and experiences, testing plays a major role in what you're doing. So maybe talk just briefly about a recent test that you guys did, and also how do you deal with a scenario where you had a strong hypothesis going in, you tested it, and you were wrong. It just didn't get borne out by the customer.
Testing is a big piece of our business. For the most part, we have one session to convert someone. And a lot goes into that, like when the show is, who the artist is, how in demand it is, et cetera, et cetera. But we get one shot, and the CPCs are quite high. So we try to make every click and website visit convert. So we do a lot of testing through our funnel. There's a lot of different touch points that go into someone buying a ticket. It's like which date, which event, which time, which seat, filters, messaging that we can display through the site. So yeah, there's things that we're constantly testing, and it's had a huge impact on our business. The more that we try to streamline that funnel, make helpful call outs, things like that, it's really gone a long way. So that's something we always continuously do. When something I've proposed is getting tested and it's been 20 hours and my variant is winning, I'm like, let's call it, let's go, roll it out. If it's losing, I'm like, no, we need to see this through. We need to give it the full 3 weeks, so I'm way more, I'd say just like I want to see things through when it's something that I want to see win. And I don't know, a lot of the things we update or we test are like, I'd say modernizing the site and creating a better UX. So sometimes even if something loses a little bit, and it looks better and it's more appealing, we still roll it because we think it's just adding to the overall experience. That's like a constant thing that we're going through. And I also struggle with, there's a couple things with testing that I think are interesting. Like, because we have most of the time we only have one session, every test theoretically should be determined on if it drove a purchase or not. But some people think that, and I think it's right, that the goal of a test on the second page in the funnel is to move people to the third page. And I always try to have that balance of like, if a test moves someone to the next step but didn't result in more purchases, is it a win or is it not? Is something we debate a lot. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, to me, some of those things are vanity metrics. You can
That's
move them
right.
from point A to point B, but who cares? And I don't know your business.
No, you're right. Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're here to generate, sales of tickets.
Right.
I don't get a feather in my cap if I move them to point A or, to point B. I want to see the sale. So I would come down on the side, whoever in the organization believes that.
Okay. I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
There you go. We can't have a conversation like this without at least touching on AI.
Sure.
Something that you're focused on in a particular area of the business?
Yeah, a lot. I'd say one, like I'm focused on trying to get more of our employees to adopt it and leverage it more. I think it's been interesting in the evolution, and it's obviously so quick the way things are happening. But like probably a year ago or less, like I felt like you almost had to hide that you were using it, maybe from your boss or whoever. Of like you had to sneak in if you're going to use it for an email response or whatever it may be. And now it's the opposite. It's like I want people to be using it. I'm trying to encourage our team to use it more and more. And the ones that do are able to get way more done and at a higher quality. I use it all the time, like for everything, but both with work and without work. But at ETC, I'm trying to just get more people to use it because it's a huge unlock, and we're a scrappy team, and we can be way more efficient and productive with it.
Which is your site of choice? Is it ChatGPT or
Yeah, I'm a
something else?
ChatGPT guy.
Right. I've been
Yeah.
playing around quite a bit and really only got into it to ask, a lot more questions around work and business the last 3 months. I've been using Grok.
Oh yeah.
I've been really impressed with the speed and, the information that you get out. I was telling some friends I had an MRI recently, and, you get the results and it's written in, nobody understands it other than a doctor. And I copy and pasted it into Grok, and, it basically gave me, the dumb layman's version of the results. And, I showed it to the doctor and he's like, yeah, you don't need me.
Right. Exactly.
You only need me for the treatment. But so yeah, there's a lot of opportunity out there if used judiciously, I guess.
I agree.
Ben, we're down to the last few minutes of the show. We do a 2-minute drill, 7 questions, 1-word answer. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. A brand that you admire or that inspires you.
Ford.
Favorite app on your phone.
ChatGPT.
Last website other than Amazon that you shopped from.
True Classics.
Something that you're not good at but wish that you were.
Creative.
Charitable organization that you're passionate about.
Save the Children.
If you had one superpower, what would it be?
To wake up without an alarm.
I can do that. Other than family, what's your most prized possession?
Time.
I never go back to people's answers. A brand that you admire or that inspires you. Ford.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I just got a Bronco, and one, it's badass. It
Okay.
really is. It's so fun. And the buying experience was awesome. Post lease or post purchase, I got all these emails like they're inviting me out to go off-roading with like, I don't know, I think they have 5 locations across the country for like Bronco customers, all these helpful tips. I don't know. I've just found it all to be the experience wise, at least, to be like something I wouldn't have expected from Ford. So that's been awesome. And I think they've just done a great job with like the American vision and dream and whatever. It's funny. I was at Google Marketing Live and I sat down at lunch with he's some top role at Ford, and he was talking about, we were just like jamming on a bunch of stuff. And he's like, we were working on a commercial creative, and this guy who worked at Ford for the past 25 years just walks into the room and he goes, if you want to improve your creative, just put a dog in the pickup bed. That's it. He's like tested it, and it's like always the commercial with the dog in it wins. So stuff like that. I don't know. It's just very recent to me, and I've enjoyed it.
Very good. Okay, cool. Ben, great job. Thanks for joining the show.
Thank you, man.
Really
awesome.
Nice to see you again, and we'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Mark.
That's it. Today's game ball goes to Ben Kruger for coming on the Marketing Playbook. To me, today's 3 game-winning marketing plays were as follows. Number 1, it's hard to have a show like this these days and not touch on AI and how brands are using it. You heard Ben mention that he's using it more and more, and he's also pushing his team to use it to help them become more efficient and to become smarter about various topics. We've seen great uses in simple stuff: crafting a job description, some product copy, ideas for a marketing plan, simply to stimulate thought. Of course, you need to check it clearly, but there's a lot that it can be used for. I like Grok and ChatGPT, but choose your own that works best for you. Number 2, for many of us, you'll get to a point in your job where you feel like you're no longer learning. Do not become complacent. Speak to the people you work for, but have a plan for the conversation. Explain what you believe you've been doing, what you've been contributing, and lay out the ways that you believe you can grow into other roles. Bring examples, but be proactive, and don't wait until your performance declines because you might get bored. And number 3, fight for what you want. Ben's story about his college experience not being among the best students certainly made getting his first role a challenge, but he believed in himself and his skills. He was able to demonstrate to people that he did have the skills to succeed, that he was more mature now than when he was in college, and that he could self-motivate. Someone gave him a chance and it's worked out. So 2 things here: fight for what you want, and then where you're able, give someone else a chance to show what they can do. Thank you, Playbook marketers, for listening to another episode. If you want to check out more pages of the Marketing Playbook, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast spot and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And until next time, the devil is in the details.